Hey everyone, it's Denise with Wondubar Crafts. I am back to sew in some signatures, and I thought I would go ahead and do a video. I know if any of you do journals, you probably have done it. There's so many different ways to do it, but I just thought I'd come on and show you guys how I do it in case anyone is new. Sorry, I think I'm getting sick. So I thought I'd try and get this video done this week, hopefully. I haven't been on for a while. I've been dealing with a lot of stuff for my mom's estate this past week, so it's been quite busy and stressful. But now that I've got a day that I can just come in here and do some crafting, I want to get caught up. I have put together my signatures, and I did some decorating on them. And that's a little hard to do on camera, since I'd have to do it between 2 or 3 different cameras. But I'm going to do 5 signatures in this journal. So, and this is, of course, the book that we're going to use. I'm going to take out this old spine and use the covers for it. Sorry. And so what I've decided to do was make my spine 2 inches. And I gauged that based upon, you know, I've got all these clips in here, so it kind of makes it thick. But when I took the clips off and kind of put it all together, it came out to about 1.5 inches, but I want enough space for it to expand a little bit, you know, when we start to put ephemera in it. So what I did was I cut 2 pieces of file folder, 2 inches wide, and then I cut this one the length, just the length of the actual binder, or the book itself. Sorry. Okay, so it's the length of, which is about 7.5, and then I cut another piece, which will be, because I'm going to do a hollow back book on this one. And what I did was cut this, and I put it on a paper towel tube, and I wet it and then put some rubber bands around it to kind of keep it in place. Now it will have quite a bit of curvature on it, but by the time I start sewing on it and stuff, some of it will expand out a little bit. It won't be as curvy. So, but I essentially wet this down. I'll probably wet it again one more time just to make sure it forms, and then that will be ready for me to decorate my spine with. But this is essentially, will be the inside portion, the inside spine. I just put some fall fabric on there, and I marked it with my T on the back side. And then how I normally do it is I take a piece of paper the length of the actual book itself, okay, and then I fold it down to measure the size of my signatures, because my signatures are a little bit shorter than what your spine is. I don't ever put my signatures that tall, because when you actually look at a book, most of the time your signatures sit downwards and inwards from the actual book binder. They aren't actually flush. So I cut this the size of the book, and then I fold it in to measure the size of the actual signature itself. Then what I do is I fold it in half. I make my little marks on here to say, you know, this is my halfway mark. It's at 3 inches and 11/16. And then, so because I'm using a hardback book, I prefer on a hardback book like that to put a 5-stitch, sew my signatures in with 5-stitch binding. And the reason is I think it provides more security than a 3-hole stitch. And that's just personal preference. Everyone is different. So what I do is I fold it in half, and then I fold this in thirds. So from where it's already folded, I fold it in like that, so that I have a third there and a third there. Right? So then that gives me my 5 even spaced, instead of having to measure it out, I just do it this way. And then I mark it both on inside, because this is the part that I will put inside my signature to poke my hole. And then I mark it on the outside. And then what I do is, this is where your math comes in. I take and I measure, I want it's 5 signatures, so I want my center signature, my middle one, my third one, right in the center. And then I measure outwards so I have enough space between my signatures. And then I use this to measure up where I'm going to mark my holes. Okay. And then I just poke them. So that's what I'm going to do now, is just go through and take my awl, and I use a telephone book. I got this technique, or this tip, from Nick the Booksmith. I think it makes it much easier. I don't have to worry about poking through my mat. I want to try and keep those holes right where I marked them as I'm poking them through, because then my signatures will sit evenly. And it's a little hard without my light. One of my subbies in my last video said the light was flickering. And yes, my light, I have one of those lights, and it is. I think the bulb is going bad in it, so it's flickering a little bit. I don't really notice it that much, but apparently the camera picks it up. And those lights, the bulbs for them are quite pricey, so it'll be a minute before I get a new one. I have another, like, desk lamp. I just need to dig it out of my little storage area downstairs and get it hooked up here so I have a little more light. But there's still some daylight outside, even though it's a rainy day. And so hopefully it won't be too dark for you guys. But try not to make this video too long. I will probably sew in 1 or 2 signatures and then, pause it and sew the rest in and show you what I come up with. But you may be asking why the fabric is not cut to the size of the spine. The reason is because I'm doing a hollow back. This portion, this extra flap, will get glued to the inside cover of the book. And then I've marked it here 1/4 inch. Although you can leave that 1/4 inch in there for play. I typically go about halfway through there, because my outer spine will have that extra 1/4 inch on either side. You know, the little divots, the gussets that on either side of the spine. Sorry. So this will still give me some play, and then this will anchor to the book plates, to the book cover. So it will be on the inside like this. And then my tip-in pages will go over it, but this will help secure the spine. A lot of people, you'll see them, they'll put the bias tape or the strips in there. I just prefer to do one big long piece. Seems to hold it okay. It keeps it secure, so. And then when I do mine, some people will bring their stitches down further. I don't like to do that. And not to say that doing that is bad. It's not. I just prefer to have them up more, because when you move your pages in and out, if they're down here, I feel that they wear more the further down they are. So I prefer to have my 5 stitches up further from the top and the bottom of the spine piece. So okay, this one up here looks like it's not quite poked good enough. There we go. Do the next one. Okay, so there's that. We'll set that aside, and then we can now work on the actual signatures itself. This is the tip that I got also from Nick the Booksmith, is using a telephone book. Now where I'm from, as you can see, We're not very big. So it's a pretty small book, but if you have a catalog or a bigger thick book, it works just as good. So I'll just find a segment in here that sits nice, and I work backwards. So now it doesn't matter which direction you actually poke your holes. You know, if you want to start with the first and work back, that's fine. I'm going to take these cards out of here so that it lays flatter as I'm doing it. From inside there. Set those aside. And what I do is I go through and I will make sure that all of my signatures are lined up really nice so that nothing is offset, because we want them to be as even as possible in here. Okay. All right. And then what I do is take my binder clips and clip them in place. So that way, when I poke my holes, everything should stay. I want that to be as even as possible. And then I leave those binder clips just as they are until I'm ready to sew it in. So now my piece of paper is the size of my signature. Stick it in that little groove in here in the book. And now everything that I've poked for the spine piece is all measured up. And you kind of got to get close and personal in there. But that's the great thing about having it all. Okay, so this one is done. I can set it aside. I'll put this one on the top because that one will be the first one that I put in, because I always sew my signatures backwards. So I sew from the last up. It makes it, for me, it's much easier to get my thread in and out. I'm not flip-flopping as much as doing it the other way. So okay. And essentially you just do this with all of your signatures that you're going to sew in. It's better to get them prepped and ready. I kind of do them up further, higher up, and the reason is if they fall open, they'll still stay together in the center part here. So I think that, there we go. Okay, so that's 2 of them done. So I'm going to go ahead and finish lining the rest of these up, and oh, I got to poke my holes in this one yet. So I will, here, let me poke the holes in this one real quick, show you guys again what I did. Stick it in there because this little envelope, or this little opening here, helps to hold your signatures in place so that you can get all of your holes without it shifting. And I know different people have different methods, and a lot of it's just based on what's comfortable for you. This method has worked really good for me, and so I kind of try to stick to what works. So, all right, so let me finish up here and I'll turn the camera on when I'm ready to start sewing them in. Okay guys, I am back, and I've got all my signatures lined up and ready to go, and I have my thread. I'm going to use upholstery thread for this one, and I pulled out my needle. And when you're choosing a needle, you know, a lot of times when you buy like a bookbinding kit, or you buy needles intended for your books, you get quite a few that are large. They're long. They have huge eyes in it, eyelets, which are awesome for people like me who have to wear readers with their contacts to find the hole for the thread. But typically when you're doing your binding, when you're sewing your signatures to your spine, you want to make sure that your needle isn't thicker than the hole that you've poked for your signatures. Since my signatures are paper and they're fairly thin, it didn't go too deep. So it didn't make a big fat hole. So I don't want to obviously use one of these big fat needles in there, because otherwise I'm just going to make my needle bigger than what my thread is, and there's always that possibility of wear over time, and it'll just, you know, a bigger hole is just going to make a bigger tear. So I try to choose a needle close to my awl size, or for my awl. So I chose the smaller one for it. And this is the dreaded part. I know most people don't like to sew in their signatures because it's time consuming and it takes some focus and some concentration. So if I don't talk a lot while I'm doing a few of them, which I'll only do a few on the camera just so you can see how I do my stitch, it takes some focus. Measuring my thread, typically you go 1, 2, 3. Most people will go half, so you have a small tail at the end. I go 4, and the reason why is if I want a longer tail at the end, I'll have it if I want to dangle something from the end, or I can cut it. So let's get this bad boy. And yes, I put my little rubber fingers on so I don't jam myself, because I am notorious for sticking myself. And in my case, it's not always just the tip of my finger that gets, I'll poke it through my fingernail, it's crazy. So what I typically do is I will take the end of this and just kind of clip it to the end of the binder clip to hold it in place, hold my thread. I don't need to pull it taut right away, so it'll help keep it there. Okay, so I'm working my way backwards, and I do that because I find it's much easier to layer from the bottom up than go from the top backwards, because you end up flipping it over, and then there's always that chance, and I've done it, that you sew your signatures in upside down or inside out. And I don't, that's because then you got to clip it and resew it, and it can be a pain in the butt, especially if it's like a middle signature. So I always work from my last signature to my first. Okay, so now I've marked it on the back side that this is my top. Make sure that my signature is right side up, and I'm going to start, I'm doing a 5-hole pamphlet stitch, and I'm going to start in the middle. So I find that middle hole, okay, poke it through, find my middle hole on my spine, poke it through, okay. No need to pull it, you don't have to pull it really tight. Then I'm going to go up, and I'm going to turn it upside down just so that the top is up here with me, okay. And I am going to go to my second hole here, poke it through, and poke it from the back side. And make sure we get through all the layers. So there's going to be a lot of movement back and forth to try and make sure I get it, because sometimes coming in from the back side can be a little bit of a pain. So let me try it this way. Let me get it through. And then, so I always keep my awl out. Just in case I need to re-poke that hole. Okay, so let's poke that hole again. Make sure it goes through. There we go. And with my awl there, I already know where to stick it back through. And hopefully it'll get it right through there. You don't want to wiggle too much because you could end up tearing your paper, which is the one thing you don't want to do. And of course, because the camera is on, it's going to be a stubborn little stinky butt. Okay, come on. There it is. And this is why I think a lot of people don't like doing sewing their signatures, especially on camera. It can be fiddly, and there's a lot of moving it around and that kind of stuff. Okay, so then we're going to go back in through that top, or we're going to go up to the top hole, that first hole, and poke it through. Well, goodness. See, I'm going to get it through the camera. It doesn't want to, if I was off camera, it'd go right through in a heartbeat. There we go. And sometimes you do, you have to poke the hole again. And it's okay if that happens. Okay, so I'm pulling it taut, but not enough to pull the tail out. So I'm going to make sure I go through this hole. And then we're going to go back down to that second hole again. Okay, so right, center to second, second to first. Let's see. Right, then first to second, which should be fairly simple since the hole has already been through. I can feel, there it goes. Okay, and then we're going to go down to the third hole. So 1, 2, 3, fourth hole down, past the first one, past the center. Okay. And like I said, it can get fiddly because you got to, you know, work it where you can get a good angle on it. And then in through that hole. Pull it just a little bit taut. Don't over pull it. Okay. Then to the last hole. And find that hole. There it is. I always forget to put one on this finger because I do. I do poke my finger there. And then back up to the fourth. And this allows it so that it's got a continuous stitch in here to hold it in place. Back in through that fourth, through the spine. And then through the center. Back in through the center where we started. And I'm trying to keep it, it's a little bit difficult because normally I like to pull it close to me so I can get it, so I can see. Okay. And it is fiddly, and that's why a lot of people don't like to do them on camera. There it goes. Okay. So now, when I pull this through, I want to make sure that my thread, it came in on one side, it comes out the other side. Okay. So now, I can release my signatures. And as you go up, if you find that it's too tight and you're not finding the hole, release one side of your signature. And I'll do that on the next one just to kind of show you. Okay, so now you can see that the thread is still, it's a little loose, and we want to kind of pull it taut here. Without pulling too tight and ripping pages, so there we go. And when you pull it, it doesn't need to be as tight as a piano or a guitar string, but you want it so that it keeps the book in place, obviously. Okay, we don't want it loose, but we do want to be able to flick it, and you can tell that it's tight. You don't want to pull it too tight, though, because you'll rip your pages. So just do your knot over and then cross it one more time. And as you can see, my tails are long enough that they will dangle if I want it, and I snip them even, and then I'll come back later and decide whether or not I want to put something in there. Okay, so let's do another one. Let's do the next one. Okay, so that's our last signature, and then we're going to go to our that's our fifth, because I've got 5. This is now our 4th. So same thing, we're going to measure it out. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And on this one I'll show you by releasing the other side of the binder clip. Sometimes it can help, but you got to be careful. You want to do at least 1 or 2 stitches in so it's secured in place before you do that, because otherwise once you release that binder clip, it can shift. So you want at least a couple of your holes stitched in. Okay, so now this one, right, okay, put it in my L shape so it keeps the same position. It's a little tricky. Take your thread and just kind of clip it underneath that binder clip so it's secure. Okay. Make sure that our signature is the correct way up. Yep. Okay. This is my top. This is my top. And start in my center. Okay, don't pull it too taut because you don't want to pull it out of that binder clip. Find my center hole. Okay, pull. Then I'm going to go up to my second hole. Same thing, in through the back side. Sometimes it is easier to pull it all the way through till you can get it started. And of course, the thinner your signatures, the much easier it will be, because you know this particular signature has 10 pages in it, so I've got to make sure I fish through 10 holes in there. There. Through. Not quite. There we go. And you don't want to fish too much because, like I said, you don't want to poke additional holes anywhere in your signatures. So, and then through the top one. Okay. And through that top signature up here. Through the spine, the hole in the spine. Okay, and then we'll go back through that second hole, and because I haven't pulled it too tight, I can still see where my thread goes in, and it makes it much easier to fish it in there. As I say that. Okay. Alright, let's try it this way. We can pull it up. And get it through that hole. Like I said, I don't want to push too hard because I don't want to poke holes in other segments of my signature there. Is it through? No, not quite. There we go. Alright, so now I've got the top half done. And I can pull it a little bit. Straighten out. I want to be careful because I am using, I have a, what happened there? Oh. Appears I sewed through part of the, I've never had that happen before. I sewed through part of the string, so let me pull that through. There we go. And like I said, I want to be careful about pulling that too taut because this is very delicate paper. So now, on the side that I have my, oh, I pulled through my string. Goodness, Denise, no wonder. Okay, so what not to do. Okay, so yeah. I'm going to have to go back through that one hole, and that's okay. It happens. It's better that you see what to do if it happens. If I can get my needle through. See, there we go. Okay. So back in through my top. Right in through that hole. Okay. It appears the thread is still there, but, oh, it is. Oh, okay. Hold on. Where am I at then? I think when I pulled my other one through, there we go. Okay, it was there. I just didn't see it. Now I need to go back through my center. I pulled it back out from my center, not from my top. My bad. Okay. And it happens. Okay, back in through. So instead of going down to the center, I'm going to go down to my, what's the top? Okay, down to that fourth hole, find it, and Ooh, that one went in really easy. I like that. And it takes a lot of practice to do it and some patience. So now, let me tighten a little bit, just a little, not over. Okay, so now I can release the pressure on this half of the signature here because it's almost sewed all the way in. And this will make it a little bit easier for me to wiggle in and out if I need to. Okay, so in through the 5th hole, the last hole. Okay. Get it through here. It is tedious sometimes. Okay, I don't want to puncture too much in that. So what I'm going to do is retake that, poke it through. Okay. Here's my needle. Okay. Because sometimes when you're going through layers, they will shift a little bit. And try it from this angle. Sometimes you gotta wiggle and play with it and get them in there. And this is the tedious part, you know. There it is. Ta-da! Yay! Okay. And then back through the 4th. That hole was very smooth to get in and out of. And then back in through that center. Wiggle it back and forth. Try to get it back in through that hole. Alright, doesn't want to work that way. I will feed it through the spine first, because I don't want to make bigger holes than I need to, right? And then try getting it through that same hole that that other thread is in. And sometimes it's just because it's laying flat or it's at a slightly different angle. See, there we go, went right through. Okay, so now I'm on the other side. Now I want to take the needle off, take my other binder clip, and this is where I want to tighten it a little bit. Okay. On the back side. Okay. off. Okay, and then just kind of give it a slight little tug. Okay, we're a little loose on that side, so okay, and we just tie it off. And that is pretty much what you do to sew in the signatures. So come down here, cut it even. All right, so I'm going to pause and get the other 3 signatures sewn in. I'll come back and show you what I do after. So I'll be right back. Okay, I have all 5 signatures sewn in. They're nice and neatly lined up. Okay, and because I'm going to make this a hollow back, what I'm going to do is, and you'll be able to see down this, I'm going to put a little bit of fabric over the back end of that to cover that up. So if you look down the hollow back portion, you'll see this down there. Make it pretty, you know. I say, what the hey, why not? And then, we're just going to glue this on real quick. And then I think I'm going to work on the spine itself and what I'm going to do, and most of that will be sewing, so I probably won't do a video on how the process of it. It will probably just be, show you guys after I've sewn it together and then how I bind it to the book and then bind everything. Sorry. My son just left, and my dog seems to think it's somebody else, I guess. I don't know. I gotta love the animals. Okay. I think we've got enough here. Make sure I got enough glue on there. I don't want it falling off. Oh, come on. I'm going to have to thin my glue again. Hand is getting sore from squeezing. Okay. So, I already cut my strip the size. And let's put that over. And I can always trim it down, trim down those edges, so. And because normally what you would do is if you were going to put this straight onto as the spine, you would have a backing piece to the spine itself, and you would just glue it to the back there. But because I'm going to make this one a little bit different, I'm going to do a hollow back on it, I think. It'll be pretty that way. And if you guys have any questions on anything, or anything kind of wasn't clear, just ask me. I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions. And I know I don't think I said welcome to everyone, and welcome to any new subscribers, of course. So, I try to answer as quickly as I can. Sometimes sometimes YouTube doesn't always give me notifications. I try to go in and check and see what kind of comments I have. So if I don't get to it I try to get to it within a day or two. If not, I will definitely answer any questions that you have. So within a few days, at least I try to anyway. But if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Like I said, This is just my process. There are so many other videos out there that other people, you know, do different methods. I think the thing is it's repetition and what is easiest for you and what, you know, process works for you. So sometimes you may have to use a process once or twice or try something different. I used to try and do it just by hand and poke as I went, and it just did not work out. They never seemed to line up right. They were always off. And this way it seems to be the best method for me anyways. And like I said, that it's just trial and error, really. I mean, once I turned off the camera, it only took me a few minutes to get the other 3 signatures sewn in. So, because sometimes you just need that extra focus and not talking and try to do 2 things at once to try and get it done. So, but I think that's that done. And I've left myself some tails here in case I decide I want to embellish them. I'll just leave them for now and decide later what I want to do. So that's essentially how I sew signatures in. That will be it for today. This video is probably already pretty long. And next one, I guess I'll have the spine I'll have the spine piece decorated and ready to put it on there. And so until next time, guys, plenty of loves, hugs, and blessings. Bye.